You're listening to Move IQ's podcast. I'm your host, Phil Spencer, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce this season's co-host, my friend Chris Ducker. This is the place where I'll be sharing my advice, my experience, tips and tricks on all things property and moving home. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Go2 offer you an award-winning home moving service, from mortgages to surveys, conveyancing to removals. Their service means one simple point of contact, freeing up your time and taking away any hassle, enabling you to enjoy the move. Be sure to check out Go2.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Move IQ podcast. It's great to have you with us. Episode number 5 now, talking all about offering and negotiating a price on your new property. I'm back with Phil Spencer. How are you, sir?
Very good indeed. Thank you, Chris.
Now, at the end of last episode, you kind of whet our appetite a little bit on this one in regards to the negotiation actually starting the moment you walk around the property, or even maybe even before it, and how it happens a long time before you even offer a single pound or penny towards the property. Let's go a little deeper on that.
Yeah, I think that is right. People assume that negotiations begin when you ring up the estate agent or you send them an email saying this is what I'm offering for the house. In actual fact, that sales agent has been sizing you up from the very moment he met you, and as you walk around the house, he'll be absolutely watching body language and conversations between you and your partner. They're trained. They're trained to do the job. They're trained to sell houses for the most amount of money possible.
Oh, and like any good salespeople, they will know a buying signal when it comes their way, right?
So don't give too many buying signals. I mean, don't... Be honest. If you like the house, say you like the house. Don't say you love the house and you'll do anything it takes to buy it.
Right.
And don't tell them that actually, you know what, my granny died last week and I'm about to get an extra couple of grand. or things like that you probably keep up your sleeve.
Oh dear. Sorry, that tickled me. That was a proper tickle. Okay.
I've seen it happen. I've absolutely seen it happen.
Right.
People walk around the house and you've got to control your emotions to some extent. I've taken enough people around houses, and if they like the house, you see their face go red, they flush, they get excited, they get a bit giddy, they start being silly.
Some people cry.
Some people
I've
cry.
seen people cry on your shows.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Because, that negotiation's already begun
Yes.
at that point.
Indeed. So, okay, let's talk about this. I mean, look, when we talk about, making an offer here, I guess it probably begins with the asking price, right? Is the asking price always what the property is actually worth?
Very interesting and relevant point, Chris, because an asking price is not a valuation. An asking price is probably a valuation with a bit of ambition and hopes and dreams tagged onto the top to reach the asking price.
Right. Understood.
It's a marketing price. What you've got to do as a potential purchaser is work out what the actual value is in the market climate at the time.
So how do you, I mean, obviously, you'll we are, as humans, we're wired to believe our own opinions before anybody else's, right? So how do we reach our own opinions on what the property is actually worth?
Well, if you think a surveyor working on behalf of a bank or building society will at some point be sent round that house. Yes, they're qualified. They're highly qualified people. But how will they assess the value of that house? They will ring round their friendly local agents and they'll use the internet to conduct their research, and they will compile a file of what they call comparable evidence. And they'll look into similar properties that have sold in a similar market climate, and at what price. And they will use those examples to kind of build a case as to what the house is worth, and then they will advise the mortgage company of that, and the mortgage company then decides whether to lend you the money or not. It's not. I don't want to take anything away from a highly qualified chartered surveyor, but it's not rocket science.
Right.
And you, in theory, can do a lot of that work yourself. You can ring round your agent contacts that you've been carefully nurturing and developing during your search. What have you sold? What was it like? What was the condition like? What did it look out on? How big was it? And you can start to build a picture of what you feel that the property will be worth. I mean, I guess it all depends on where you see the asking price. Is it fair?
Well,
Is it overly ambitious or is it low? I mean, it happens.
I'm curious. I mean, like in your experience, which is vast, as we all know in this topic, what percentage of people offer the asking price? I mean, you don't always have to negotiate. I guess if you really love something and you want to snap it up quickly, I guess you just sort of do what you got to do.
Well,
right?
I've done deals like that in a where I think the asking price is perfectly fair and reasonable, and I'm first in the door. And I know that come the weekend, there's going to be another six people.
Snap it up.
Don't muck about. If you think the asking price is fair, pay the man what he wants, get on with it.
Yeah.
But it could be wildly ambitious. But it's up to you to look after your interests and assess that yourself.
Okay, so my follow-up question to this one, and I think a lot of people tuning in are going to appreciate this one, is let's say that the estate agent that you've teamed up with has done their job impeccably. You've walked through the door, you've liked the first property that he or she has shown you, and you're now in the position where a second viewing has taken place and you're ready to offer something. Do you go for it straight away, or do you shop around a little bit more, knowing that it's only the first property that you've looked at?
Difficult one to answer. And I'd probably encourage people to go back and listen to the first podcast episode that we made together, which was looking at the differences between what you like and what you need. That is quite tough, and it does happen. The only way you can be really confident that the first house that you walk through the door is the right house is if you've done your proper research and preparation into what it is that you want. I mean, I've met a good number of people who have searched for a long time, and they have in the back of their mind what I've always called a loved and lost house, where they've seen something, and it may be the first one that they've seen.
Right.
They think, God, maybe I should just carry on looking. And they carry on looking, that one gets bought by somebody else. And they always go back to, that existed. I didn't buy it, but I should have done.
If only.
If only. And they hang all of their hopes and dreams on finding something like that. And years go past, and the market changes and climbs, gets more expensive, and they still, but I found that for 230 grand.
The one that got away.
The one that got away.
Oh gosh. So all right, I mean, let's talk about market conditions for a minute. I mean, how much does this actually change valuations on houses and flats indeed as well? And I mean, how can you utilize market conditions for your own good in regards to the negotiating side of things?
But your tactics and your strategy in house price negotiation will always depend on the market conditions at the time. And they change. All markets go up, all markets come down. It's what the definition of a marketplace is, in my opinion. So, yes, your tactics have to reflect those. And sometimes they'll benefit the buyer, sometimes they'll benefit the seller. I think at the end of the day, how much you offer is a reflection on how much you like or love that particular house.
Good point.
How keen or not the vendor is to sell it. Because if they're really keen, you're likely to offer perhaps a little bit less. The value that you came up with in relation to the asking price that the estate agent and the vendor came up with. And any other interest which might be circling around. Is there a open day viewing with 4 couples coming round at the weekend? All of that needs to be factored in when you're assessing.
So it's not all about the money.
Well, no, it's not. In fact, it's about a great deal more than the money. It is tactical, and you do need to kind of be a bit of a strategist. Your position, your ability to do the deal, your ability to do the deal at within the timescale that the vendor is hoping to move to.
Right?
Speed.
Yeah.
Things like the level of deposit, the amount of cash that you have to put down is relevant nowadays. Your ability to be flexible is relevant. So all of those things are part of the negotiation process. It's not just about the price.
Love this. Okay, great stuff. All right, so let's say we've taken all this into consideration. We're ready to make that offer. how do we do it? Is it just a matter of just calling up our estate agent and saying, hey, we'll take that place for $250,000 or whatever it is? Or what should we do and what should we not do at this point?
There is no harm. I mean, you should call up the estate agent and have a discussion. But you should always put that in writing. Always, 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 always.
Okay.
Personally, I prefer, if time allows, to get it in writing and then follow it up with a discussion.
Why is that?
Because I want a paper trail. I don't want there to be any room for misunderstanding.
Love that. Okay.
Agents love to do business on the phone. They'll ring you up, you're getting a coffee, you're in the middle of lunch, and they're trying to engage you on a conversation, and they don't write down the notes of the conversation, and neither do you. And then it's too easy. Oh, really? Did you say that? I didn't understand that.
Okay.
So this is serious. This is business. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it's a business transaction. Treat it as such. Get it in writing. What do you put in writing? Yes, you put the amount that you're prepared to spend and why and how you came to that figure. You need to demonstrate who your solicitor is. Mm-hmm. Get that detailed. Mm-hmm. How you're going to fund that purchase, amount of cash, deposit, who your lender's going to be. Detail that, evidence of that if you've got it pre-agreed. Again, that looks like it's just demonstrating that you're a serious person, this is a serious deal, and you're organised, and you're going to be able to do what you say you're going to do.
Okay, good stuff. I love all that. So, really, at that point, there's two outcomes. Either A, the offer's accepted, everybody wins, thank you for playing, or B, there's a counter offer, or, how does that work?
Well,
how often I'm curious to know, you might know the answer to this in a roundabout way, how often do first offers actually get accepted straight away?
It's a really complicated one, Chris, because there's no rights or wrongs, there's no firm answer. It all depends, and that's what keeps it interesting. It keeps it interesting for me because no two situations are the same. Because the vendors are in a different situation, the purchasers are in a different situation, the asking price is high or low. It's all up for discussion, which is, in my opinion, what makes it so endlessly fascinating. Personally, I think it's good policy to have your first offer rejected because you want to. I'm happier that way,
right?
Because I know I'm getting down to the bottom somewhere.
Right. Okay. I'm with you.
So, second offer. If you're making a second offer, well, get something in return. See what you can get in return. Would they? If you're going to increase your level, would they give you an exclusive period? Would they take the property off the market for a period of time to enable you to, do your conveyancing and give you a free run at it?
Right.
Would they throw other things in? Would they throw in the lawnmower or the kitchen table or whatever? I'm not being ridiculous. But...
No. But if you're buying a property with a big lawn, a big garden, lots of space,
downsizing,
yeah, and they've got one of those sit on and buzz around your garden, lawn. They're $4 or $5 grand. Those things, right?
Would they throw that in?
Right.
So it's little things like that. So it's not just about the sum of money that's on the table at the time.
I will say, actually, and if you guys tuning in have spent any time listening to our other episodes prior to this one, you'll know that I just bought a property recently in Cambridge, which half of it has an old thatched roof on it. I will say, knowing what I do know about thatched roofs, that if that roof had not have been fully replaced, because it needs to be replaced every 20, 25 years. If it hadn't have been replaced only I think it was 4 or 5 years before we bought the property, if it was close to having to be replaced, which, can sometimes cost, tens of thousands, depending on the size, it might have had me second guessing buying that property.
Yeah.
Or it would have at least given me some sort of level of negotiation
of course,
to be able to bring that price down.
Yeah.
So there's lots to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a buyer, it's going to help if you can, and this is why information, and the more that you gather, the better it is. If you can put yourself in the mind of the seller and try and think about what you would do if you were them. What's in their mind? What do you suspect they'll be thinking? What's motivating them? This is guesswork, but I say try and play the tape forward. Where do you think this negotiation is going to end up? And therefore think backwards how you're going to get there. If you've made a second offer and that's still being rejected, well, you're perfectly fair and reasonable to ask for a counter offer. Get them to put a figure on the
Yes.
table. And just keep on the one hand, you want to keep the discussion going, you want
Mm-hmm.
to keep the negotiation alive, but you also don't want to be rushed into anything.
Right.
Don't be rushed into anything. If you need to slow it down, slow it down. Agents will love to broker, let's try and get this deal done, and everyone gets wrapped up in the momentum of a deal.
Right.
If you feel that happening, take some time out. You can say, I've got other properties to see. I'm seeing this, that, and the other over the weekend. You can imply that you've seen something that is interesting, that's at a cheaper price, and you can play. There are lots of games to play, and
Yeah.
rest assured, the agent will be playing them on behalf of their client, the person that they represent, which is the seller.
So much great stuff in this episode of the show. Thank you for all the insights, Phil, as always.
Not at all.
In our next episode, for you guys tune in, it's a doozy. It's a good one. We're going to be deep diving on the subject of what to actually do when your offer is accepted.
Yes. The fun really begins then. I actually say there were three
So
stages.
everything up to this point wasn't fun?
No. That was all work.
So
No.
give us your 3 stages.
Well,
What are they?
there are 3 stages of successful house buying. 1 is find the house.
Right.
2 is negotiate the right price. So you've done those. Arguably, those are the 2 easy bits.
Okay.
The 3rd is what happens next, and the conveyancing process, and overseeing and managing that. There's a lot that could go wrong, and that actually too many people celebrate and crack open the champagne once they've agreed a price. Don't do that. Don't do that. Listen to the next podcast, and we'll sort it all out.
There you go. You heard it. You heard it here, folks. You're going to have to tune in to episode 6, coming at you real soon. Phil, thank you as always.
Great
And we'll
pleasure.
be back at you again soon.
That wraps up this week's episode of Move IQ's podcast. Whatever podcast app you like to use, please do go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'd also really appreciate it if you could leave a review. Reviews really help other people like you find us. For free resources and materials, head over to moveiq.co.uk. Thanks for tuning in.